He pushes the heavy door and enters the ship, relieved to escape the storm. The interior is strangely quiet, dimly lit, with glowing panels and unfamiliar technology. He begins exploring cautiously. The camera focuses on his tense reactions to strange alien architecture. Subtle hints that he's not alone. Shadows move, faint whispers echo, but he convinces himself it's just the wind or the storm. Welcome to my channel Starlight Sci-Fi Stories. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Suddenly, lights flare on, revealing several alien women with unique, otherworldly appearances. They are armed but not immediately hostile. Their expressions are unreadable. They start speaking in an unknown language. The protagonist panics at first but then notices universal gestures of curiosity rather than aggression. Suspense. One of the aliens approaches him slowly, and the others watch closely. The wind howled like a living beast across the barren landscape of the alien planet. Sand and jagged rocks whipped violently across the surface, making each step forward a battle against the invisible force. The human explorer, sweating and panting, squinted against the blinding streaks of light that split the dark clouds above. The storm was unlike anything he had ever encountered on Earth. It wasn't just wind and rain, it was alive, raw energy crackling in the air, shaping itself into jagged arcs of lightning that seemed to strike at random. He had been traveling for days, searching for signs of life, water, and shelter on this strange, hostile world. But nothing had prepared him for this storm. His supplies were limited, and the raging tempest made progress almost impossible. The sand stung his skin, cutting tiny lines across his arms and face, while the air was thick with ozone and the electric taste of the storm. As he stumbled forward, trying to keep his balance, he noticed a faint glimmer of light in the distance. At first, he thought it was a trick of the storm, a reflection from a rock or ice. But as he squinted, the light grew stronger, steadier, and he realized it was something artificial. A structure, unlike anything he had ever seen. Heart racing, he pushed himself forward. With every step, the storm fought him back, as if the planet itself wanted to swallow him whole. His boots sank into the shifting sand, and every gust of wind threatened to knock him off his feet. Yet, the light beckoned him. In his desperate state, he had only one thought: shelter. Safety. Survival. Finally, after what felt like hours, he reached the source of the light. Standing tall and imposing amidst the chaos was a spaceship. Its design was unlike any human technology. Sleek, silver panels reflected the storm's lightning, and strange symbols glowed faintly along the hull. The human paused, staring in awe. The ship looked abandoned, yet somehow alive. With no other option, he ran toward it, ignoring the whipping wind and stinging sand. His hands reached for the heavy door, pressing against the cold metal. It shuddered, then slowly began to open with a hiss. Relief washed over him as he stepped inside, finally out of the storm. The interior of the ship was quiet, almost eerily so. Dim lights flickered along the walls, and the air smelled faintly of ozone and something sweet, almost floral. Panels and consoles lined the room, glowing with symbols and lights that pulsed like the heartbeat of a living creature. He took a tentative step forward, marveling at the alien technology. The silence was broken by a faint rustle behind him. He spun around, heart pounding. Shadows moved across the room, subtle but unmistakable. "Hello?" he called, voice trembling. No response. Just the low hum of the ship, like it was breathing. He reminded himself that he was safe, for now. He began to explore cautiously, stepping into larger chambers filled with more alien technology. Holographic projections floated in the air, images of stars, planets, and unknown constellations shifting and changing. The human's curiosity grew, pushing his fear aside. He had seen many strange things on his journeys, but this was unlike anything else. Then, the silence was broken again, by movement. Figures stepped out of the shadows. At first, he thought they were mannequins, part of the ship's design. But then they moved, slowly, deliberately. Alien women, unlike any species he had encountered. Their forms were elegant, with skin that shimmered faintly under the dim lights, and eyes that glowed softly in shades of blue, green, and violet. They were armed, carrying strange weapons that hummed with energy. The human froze. His heart pounded so hard he thought they could hear it. The women did not attack immediately. Instead, they surrounded him, their eyes studying him carefully. Their expressions were unreadable. Curiosity, suspicion, hostility. He could not tell. One of the alien women stepped forward. She was taller than the others, her presence commanding yet strangely calm. She spoke in a language he couldn't understand. Melodic, fluid, almost musical, yet harsh at the same time. She gestured toward him, then pointed at herself. The others nodded, repeating her gesture. He understood the basic meaning: communication. He held up his hands, showing he meant no harm. Slowly, he mimicked their gestures, pointing to himself and then to them. The tall alien seemed to study him for a long moment, then nodded slightly. The others relaxed just enough for him to notice. Still, fear and tension hung in the eye. Like a thick fog. He knew he had to learn quickly. One wrong move could trigger a hostile response. And in a place like this, surrounded by beings so powerful and alien, mistakes could be deadly. He looked around the room, trying to find something familiar. Holographic displays showed symbols and lights he could not decipher. Then, a soft glow from the tall alien's hand caught his attention. She held a small device, pulsing with energy. Slowly, she extended it toward him. Hesitant, he reached out. The moment his fingers touched it, a wave of warmth and calm passed through him. Fear that had been clawing at his chest loosened. The device projected a series of images in the air, flashes of the planet outside, the storm, and something moving within it. The human realized the storm was not natural. There were signs of creatures, large and shadowy, moving through the chaos. And the ship, it was responding to the storm. The energy from the storm seemed to feed it, almost like it was alive. The alien women moved with purpose, guiding him to a console. Symbols lit up as they interacted with the panels. He watched carefully, mimicking their actions. The more he observed, the more he understood. The ship was not just a vessel. It was a living entity, controlled by the aliens through gestures, energy, and thought. As he adjusted a panel, trying to match their movements, the ship hummed louder. The lights flickered and then brightened. Outside, the storm's lightning struck closer than ever. A loud thud shook the ship. The human stumbled but regained his balance. One of the aliens, the one who had remained distant until now, raised her weapon slightly, eyes narrowing. The others tensed. Something was outside, something moving with the storm. Predators, creatures, he could only guess, but the alien women did not panic. Instead, they coordinated, their movements precise and deliberate. The human realized he had a choice: panic and run, or trust them and try to help. He chose to trust. Slowly, he moved to the panel the tall alien had indicated. Using logic and quick thinking, he manipulated the controls, pressing sequences that mimicked the alien's gestures. Energy flowed through the ship, lights pulsed, and for a moment, it seemed as if the storm itself responded. The aliens glanced at him, surprise evident in their eyes. A few nodded, approvingly, while the others remained cautious. The human felt a spark of pride. He had survived the storm so far, and he had learned to work with these beings, even if only a little. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the ship. A shadow passed across the window, massive and fast. The aliens stiffened. The tall alien gestured urgently, pointing at the human. He understood, this was a test. His actions mattered. Fear surged. Again, but he focused. He had faced storms, unknown creatures, and death before. This was another challenge, another chance to prove himself. The human moved quickly, adjusting panels, creating barriers, and doing what he could to protect himself and the ship. The shadow outside pressed against the hull again. The ship groaned under the force. Lightning struck near the windows, illuminating the alien women's faces, determined, fierce, and unyielding. For the first time, the human realized something profound. These beings were not just powerful, they were guardians. Protectors of a living ship, a force far beyond human comprehension. He didn't know if he would survive the storm or the creatures outside. But he also knew that running would not help. If he wanted to live, he would have to think, act, and trust in ways he had never done before. And somehow, amidst the fear and chaos, he felt something strange: hope. Hope that he could survive. Hope that he could connect with these alien women. And hope that this storm, terrifying and relentless, was only the beginning of a journey far beyond anything he had ever imagined. The ship vibrated again, louder this time, as if it sensed the approaching danger. The human gritted his teeth and prepared himself. He was no longer just a visitor in this alien world, he was a participant. And the next moments would determine whether he survived, thrived, or became just another casualty of the storm outside. He took a deep breath. Around him, the alien women watched, curious and cautious. Together, they faced the unknown. Together, they were preparing for what the storm would bring next. And as the first tendrils of lightning struck near the ship again, the human knew he had entered a world where survival required courage, intelligence, and trust, qualities that humans, despite all odds, often possessed in abundance. The storm raged on, but inside the ship, a fragile alliance was forming. And somewhere deep inside, he felt the faint thrill of adventure, a spark that told him he was exactly where he needed to be. The storm outside had not let up. The wind still howled across the barren planet, but inside the ship, the human explorer now felt a strange sense of purpose. The alien women, who had surrounded him when he first entered, now moved with a coordinated precision he could barely comprehend. The tall alien woman, who had first shown trust, gestured toward a glowing console. Her eyes, glowing faintly in the dim light, met his. "You help?" she asked, her broken English understandable enough. He nodded, swallowing hard. I'll try." The other aliens watched silently, their weapons still ready but lowered slightly. The ship itself seemed to respond to the human's resolve, a soft hum vibrating through the floor. He stepped closer to the console, studying the holographic displays that hovered in the air. Symbols and patterns shifted rapidly, almost too fast for him to follow. But he remembered what the tall alien had shown him, the basic sequence of gestures and panels, and he began to replicate them. The ship's energy pulsed in response. Light beams shot across the room, forming a lattice of glowing lines. Outside, the storm raged, but now it felt like the ship was fighting back. Lightning struck the planet's surface in jagged bolts, but the ship's shields absorbed the force, redirecting energy into its systems. Suddenly, a loud thud shook the ship. The human stumbled but caught himself. The alien women tensed, their eyes narrowing at the windows. One of them, the suspicious alien who had not trusted him earlier, raised her weapon and pointed toward the source. "Creatures," she said simply. "Hunting, storm energy." The human's heart raced. He turned toward the window, barely able to make out shadowy forms moving in the blinding storm. Massive predators, unlike anything he had seen, were drawn to the energy of the storm. Their shapes shifted and blurred in the violent winds, glowing eyes piercing the darkness. The tall alien woman turned to him, urgency in her eyes. She gestured toward a console, then toward the creatures. He understood immediately, they needed his help. The ship's energy could be manipulated to form barriers, but it required precise timing and quick thinking. He moved quickly, pressing sequences and adjusting energy flows. The alien women coordinated around him, their movements fluid and deadly. Energy beams shot from the ship's panels, forming protective barriers around them. The predators struck at the hull, shaking the ship violently, but the barriers held. One of the predators managed to break through a weaker section, its massive form pressing against the hull. The human's mind raced. He saw a control panel glowing faintly, an interface the tall alien had pointed out before. With a deep breath, he pressed the sequences he had memorized. Beams of energy shot out from the console, forming a cage around the predator. The creature roared, thrashing violently, but it could not escape. The alien women glanced at him, a mixture of surprise and approval in their expressions. The tall alien stepped forward, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Clever human," she said, her voice calm but filled with respect. He exhaled, trying to steady his racing heart. I didn't know if it would work," he admitted. "You think fast. Humans survive," she said simply. There was no time to relax. The storm was still dangerous, and more predators could come at any moment. The human and the aliens moved through the ship, coordinating defenses and monitoring. The energy flows outside. The ship vibrated beneath their feet, alive and responsive, but unpredictable. As they moved, the human noticed the ship's structure in more detail. The walls pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. Holographic projections floated in the air, showing the planet outside and the storm's shifting patterns. He realized the ship could sense the environment, adjust its energy output, and even manipulate the storm. But it needed guidance, human intuition combined with alien control. The human stepped to another console, adjusting energy channels. He noticed a spike in the storm's intensity, something unnatural. The aliens looked concerned, their gestures sharp and precise. The tall alien woman explained quickly, using gestures and broken English. The storm was being fueled by an unknown cosmic force, one that sought the ship's energy. If left unchecked, it could overwhelm both the planet and the ship. The human's mind raced. He had faced dangerous situations before, but this was unlike anything on Earth. He relied on logic, observation, and instinct. With the aliens' guidance, he began redirecting energy flows, stabilizing the ship's shields while also feeding pulses back into the storm to weaken it. Outside, the predators were retreating, sensing the shift in energy. The storm still raged, but the ship's influence was evident. The human worked tirelessly, moving between consoles, adjusting sequences, and monitoring holographic projections. The alien women supported him, their presence precise, efficient, and deadly when needed. Minutes felt like hours. Every action had consequences. A wrong move could collapse the ship's shields or draw more predators. Yet, he persisted. His mind focused, his body moving with purpose. Then, a sudden alert blared through the ship. Another predator had approached, a massive shadow moving faster than the others. The human glanced at the alien women. The suspicious one had moved closer, standing ready. The tall alien gestured urgently toward the energy channels, signaling him to act. With no hesitation, he activated a new sequence. Energy beams shot out, forming a lattice around the approaching predator. It collided with the beams, thrashing violently, but the structure held. The ship vibrated under the strain, lights flickering, but the predator could not break through. The human's hands shook as he adjusted the panels, but he continued. "We can do this," he said aloud, more to himself than anyone else. The alien women moved with him, precise and coordinated. Together, they stabilized the energy flows, weakening the storm and forcing the predators to retreat. The ship hummed louder, as if acknowledging their success. For the first time, the human felt a sense of achievement. He had not only survived but contributed meaningfully to this alien world. The tall alien woman stepped forward, her eyes softening. "You, brave. We respect," she said. The human nodded, exhausted but proud. I just did what I had to," he admitted. "You, more than that," she replied. They took a moment to catch their breath. The ship had survived the storm, and the immediate danger outside had passed. The human glanced at the window, seeing the storm's fading lightning illuminate the alien landscape. The planet was still dangerous, but now it seemed less hostile. The tall alien gestured toward a central console. Holographic symbols shifted, showing the storm dissipating and the predators retreating. She motioned for him to watch. Slowly, the energy stabilized completely. The ship pulsed softly, alive and responsive, but no longer in immediate danger. The human realized something profound. This was more than a spaceship. It was a living entity, guided by the aliens and now partially by him. He had entered a world far beyond human understanding and had found a way to survive, contribute, and connect. The suspicious alien, who had not trusted him earlier, now approached. She extended a hand, not threatening, but cautious. "We survive because of you," she said. He hesitated, then nodded. "Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you." The tall alien woman placed her hand gently on his shoulder. "You, part of us now," she said. For the first time since arriving on this planet, the human felt a sense of belonging. He was still a stranger, still human among beings far more advanced, but he had proven his worth. Courage, quick thinking, and the ability to adapt, these human traits had allowed him to survive when raw strength alone might not have been enough. The storm outside had passed enough for the first clear glimpse of the alien sky. Strange constellations glimmered, stars burning brightly in unfamiliar patterns. The human gazed out of the window, awe filling his chest. He had sought shelter from a storm, but he had found something far greater, an adventure, a purpose, and perhaps even a family among alien beings. The tall alien gestured toward the ship's navigation console. They had work to do. The storm was only one danger, and the planet itself held mysteries yet to be uncovered. He realized that he was no longer just an explorer trying to survive. He was a participant in a larger story, one that would test his courage, intelligence, and humanity in ways he had never imagined. The human took a deep breath, steadying himself. Around him, the alien women prepared the ship for departure. The storm had passed, but the challenges ahead were only beginning. He was ready. He had survived the storm, earned the respect of the aliens, and proved that humans, even in a universe far beyond their understanding, could adapt, endure, and triumph. And as the ship lifted off, leaving the storm and the barren planet behind, the human felt a thrill of excitement and anticipation. For the first time, he truly understood the meaning of courage, trust, and the strength of the human spirit. And he knew, without a doubt, that this was only the beginning of an adventure that would take him farther than he had ever dreamed.